Wait.
Oh, that camera's still high quality. Ah, you said we're streaming.
We're live right now, but it's
private.
Yeah.
I don't like how Jorie's beard shows up, but mine is like not. Like you can't, cause like the shadows, it's like not. But you can, if I turn my fit, you can kind of. Well, you kind of, you kind of, or you're not even.
I was looking at the YouTube thing.
You kind of see it. You kind of. If I turn, you kind of. Wait till I start. Wait till it starts. Hey, bro. Don't let me get in my bag. What am I looking for? What am I trying to do? I ain't playing. I'm not playing. We're starting at 5 minutes. Well, we don't have to start directly at 6:45, but
just make sure
we should be in the chat.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a messenger. Testing.
Still ahead of our full on the NCAA tournament bracket, including the top seed with the toughest path to the final 4 sets.
What the heck?
They join us right after this.
You got 20 minutes. Yeah, speed it up. Dun.
Welcome to the Magic Racket. Man's life. And everyone's life. Where great expectations grow. And rewards are given to the swift, the perceptive, and the daring. Introducing the Monster CX30 with all-wheel drive. More power for your pursuit. Rare stock to the latest release, new or pre-owned. The drops never stop. Even authenticity guaranteed. Your city will be finished in just one day. Finished? My Coliseum. We ran out of red food. That's why Rome wasn't built in a day. Rated RP12. Exploration.
Ah! I thought I muted myself. I'm just been screaming. Sorry for it.
Are we going?
Not yet. Not until. I mean, I'm gonna mute this and we can start the But I just want to have all of the. I want to get my shit outlined. I want to have the God, what am I trying to say? I want to have the. You know what I mean? The bracket, fucking. Before it.
The projections.
The whatchamacallit.
What is this guy on?
I'm trying to hold on. Let me. Okay, this is not. Where was I yesterday? Was that CBS.com or was that NCAA?
I know on NCAA they're updating theirs.
They're filling it, yeah, like as it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what I want. I'm trying to find that live. Here it is, the official bracket, including the yes, and I imagine it'll fill out as it happens. That's what I imagine. That's what I presume. That's what I'm hoping at this point. Okay. All right. fuck is that? Bro, none of these brackets have us, bro. Ah. Yeah, we're actually nowhere. I'm down bad. Out of it as a 14. Fucking Drexel.
Gentlemen,
What up, Ronald?
Oh,
What's good?
Ronald
sir.
Jerez.
Yes, sir. Yes,
what's
sir.
good? What's good? What's good?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So, first off, let me get a background.
Background, more like background. Damn, we're not even in the first 4 out. Who wrote this? Oh my God, Autumn Johnson. Not bad. Never mind. Drexel won their tourney. That's why they're fucking everywhere. I joked to you. Way to keep your toes. Way to stand your toes.
All right.
Okay. So, fellas, we're gonna start. I'm gonna be like, oh, da 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 da. Welcome to the selection show special, where we, wait patiently as they start revealing the seating live on ESPN. We can start first by discussing the women's season and how that's been, or how that went, I should say. The ups,
All right.
the downs, the highs, the lows, and that should lead us into them revealing the seed, and then we can discuss that. And as they're revealing, we can kind of talk about which matchups stand out to us, which teams we like where, and so on and so forth. So feeling good, feeling great.
Very free flowing. Hold up. Let me.
Yep, exactly that. How it was yesterday. So it was just Will shouting, just making noise, just being loud, just filling out nonsense.
Yeah,
That's what he does best.
Just cheating us. This guy was like, Will, you don't get to. He said something. What did I message you? I didn't get to talk about Gonzaga. And I was like, and then you had to bring it back around so I could.
It wasn't me not bringing it back around. It was me trying to.
No, I
say,
feel like it was your fault. I feel like it was.
You trying to jump the gun.
I'm gonna jump your gun. Wait. So what I meant by that was how I'm going to address. Oh, brother. Damn, she big as hell. She's no Desiree Elmore.
That's for sure.
Oh, God.
Could I get a virtual background?
Yes, 650 should be fine. Thank you, buddy.
Virtual
I appreciate
background.
What did he say? What is it?
Damn, you don't see that background?
Oh, you changed it back. See, I didn't even get to see because I'm looking at it. Oh my God! Look at my bro. My hair was so dry. Delete that, please. I beg.
No.
God, that just
Never.
I refuse.
pains me. I've never been so insulted with myself. That's And you let me walk around like that.
The selection show starts at.
That ass clump of grease. You did point that out. Okay, never mind. You're a good pal.
What happened, Joe?
The selection show starts at 7, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Why don't I see it on ESPN's? Is it just not gonna appear until it's 7?
Yeah. I think because it'll be at. Someone said it's at 7. It's at 7. It is.
That'll be a 7.
And it'll be from 7 to 8 because I think there's a game at 8. I'm pretty sure. No. Is there? Well, I know the selection show's at 7. Damn it. So this we're here for fun.
That's what we're here for.
We're here to have a good time and make friends.
St. Bonaventure.
More like St. Bozo Venture.
Oh.
Fucking torched him. Oh my god. That Midwest bracket, man. That shit is crazy. Like I'm trying to watch all of those games at once.
Midwest, more like mid-best.
Yes,
Ooh.
yes, precisely that.
Oh,
It's
boy.
actually insane.
Timber.
Oh, they included Seton Hall's bubble resume tweet at the bottom.
Let's go. Somebody's recap article.
In this weekly's roundup. What happened? You said who's
Somebody's
recap?
somebody's recap article got included.
No, the resume tweets that the women's account's been sending out, including all those numbers and impressive stats.
You said the weekly roundup. Who said?
This place, written by Jacqueline LeBlanc and Megan Gower. I share a birthday with Jacqueline.
Hey.
And I pointed that out to her. She was like, oh, wow, really? And I was, would I lie?
Rob Gronkowski is returning. 1 year, 10 mil.
1 year, 10 mil?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Bro, they just throwing money away.
They're paying that nigga in Twinkies. There. This chair doesn't lift. I lied. Color. Mute that. You tweeted
yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Dude, we're live on YouTube, man.
We are?
Yeah. Only we're unlisted now, but I sent out the tweet, so once I think the public again.
Crazy. Point to me when we're live.
Hey.
That's that point. Welcome to our WSOU Sports selection show special for the women's bracket. The tournament is taking place in a bubble in San Antonio this year. Yesterday on Pirate Prime Time, myself, Warner Lewis, who's the engineer for tonight, and Michael Daly did a selection show special for the men's side, where Will outlined all of the matchups, and we looked at the seeding, and we predicted, every game start to finish, and we even made a little bracket and taped it outside one of our studios here in South Orange. So now tonight we'll be doing kind of the same thing for the women's side, but I don't think we'll what am I trying to say? It's I don't know if we can do they have printable? They should have printable, but I don't know if y'all, because you're at home, and yesterday we were all here and we could just print and it's a different. You get what I mean? But we'll predict it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a great time here, and it should be a blast. So starting off with the Seton Hall women's team, for the last several days now, they've been tweeting out their resume. They believe they should be included in the field of 64 teams headed to San Antonio for this tournament. And this would be their first tournament appearance since the 2015-2016 season, when they were led there by Tabitha Richardson-Smith in her final season as a Pirate. Then they amassed a great record and had conference wins, and they were just a really solid team, and they were able to receive inclusion in that tournament. This year, the team they finished 14-7 with a 6-2 record on the road, and they picked up big wins left and right, and they led UConn at halftime. Only one of two teams that can lay claim to that lofty achievement, although they didn't pull out the win. They had 3 players on the All Big East first team, which was the most in the conference, namely Desiree Elmore, Lauren Park Lane, and Andra Espinoza-Hunter. The latter was one of the top scorers in the conference. Lauren Park Lane won Most Improved Player. Desiree Elmore was one of the candidates for Defensive Player of the Year. So this was definitely a notable season for the women's team, and not one that I don't think any of us expected. So I just wanted to get your opinions on this past women's season. The highs, the lows, what stood out to you, what you thought was surprising, what your expectations were for the season coming in. And, just do you think the women's team should get inclusion in the field in San Antonio? So, Jorie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this was a very up and down roller coaster season for Seton Hall and their program. Obviously, they were impacted by the coronavirus like many of the teams throughout the country. But you mentioned, Heaven, that they were 6-2 on the road, which is very impressive considering the only 2 losses on the road this season were against UConn and DePaul, 2 ranked teams. UConn, who's probably going to, not probably, definitely is going to be a number 1 seed once this bracket is released. And then DePaul, they're somewhat, I think, on the bubble because of how they finished in the Big East tournament. But, another team that could definitely get a tournament bid. So the fact that, again, 6-2 on the road is impressive. I think that is one factor that I feel like the selection committee should look at because Seton Hall knows how to get it done away from home. But, you mentioned some of their superstars, Desiree Elmore, Lauren Park-Lane, Andrea Espinoza-Hunter. Those 3, I feel like it would be criminal not to have those 3 in the tournament based on how well they played this season. Desiree Elmore, one of the best players in the Big East Conference this season. Lauren Park-Lane, who won the Most Improved Player. And then Andrea Espinoza-Hunter, who was one of the best transfers, I have to say, probably throughout the entire country, making the impact for Seton Hall. So this team has what it takes to make a run in the tournament. Hopefully they can get a bid. If not, there's always next year. But I think they put together a really nice resume.
Jorie, you mentioned it perfectly. First of all, it's really glad to be here with all 3 of you guys here. So, but this women's team, I can tell you for sure, raised a lot of eyebrows because of how diligent and how electric they were throughout the entire season. And I can tell you, it's almost kind of a different season. Those games, what was it, 5 games, 4 or 5 games before Andrea Espinoza-Hunter coming onto this team, and then everything after it's like she was a flamethrower. We've called her every name in the book of her play and how she was a shot in her arm for this team. They really rocketed and got to heights that we didn't really expect because we didn't expect her to be on this team. And then, she was granted eligibility waivers and she came on. And then that's when things started going the Pirates' way. They finished on a great run to end the season, the regular season, that is. They finished on a 5-game win streak, so they were hot, and they've had multiple win streaks. And it's really tough in a conference where you share at the top of the Big East with DePaul and UConn for all the teams, and you can throw Marquette in there and Villanova. So it's a very tough conference, and they were a one and done. So that's in the Big East Conference, in the tournament. That's definitely going to be something that's going to really hurt them. If there's anything that's going to hurt them, it's going to be that first round exit. But in terms of the season, you guys mentioned the players are electric. They are made for March. The way you see them play, the energy they play with each other, you see them just, roaring and yelling and fast pace. Lauren Park-Lane, she's one of the best point guards in transition, especially when you have Andrea Espinoza-Hunter to her right on the wing. And then you have Desiree Elmore, also a big, but that can run for her size, running to the block as well. So you got shooters like Maya Jackson. This team can match up well with any team, I believe. And I do think they should get a bid into this tournament. I feel like they have an excitement factor that can really raise a lot of eyebrows and be a tough matchup for any team they face.
Yeah, and I agree with you both. I thought I was unmuted. I swear I clicked it, but I agree with the both of you. Coming into the season, my expectations for the women's team were definitely tempered. with the graduation of Shadini Samuels and Alexis Lewis leaving and Barbara Johnson. And there was a lot of moving pieces. McKenna Hofschild left the team as well. So all of a sudden, of course, you have the new freshman class coming in, which, we detailed over the summer with our Pirate Player preview articles. And then you have Andra Espinoza Hunter transferring to the squad and then joining the team, midway through the season. It was just so many moving pieces to the point where no one really knew how to project the Pirates for this year. So for, of course, the preseason coaching polls that go around every offseason, the Pirates were projected to finish 6th, which is understandable. You have UConn, Marquette, DePaul, the usual powerhouses. And then, the Pirates were kind of stuck in that middle ground, and no one really knew what to expect from them this season. And coming into the year, it was, obviously getting Desiree Elmore back was a huge boost, and Femi Funes was supposed to return from injury. And it was interesting to see how Lauren Park Lane and Maya Jackson would develop in year 2. We saw last season that Lauren Park Lane could facilitate and that Maya Jackson could light it up from behind the arc. But it was going to be interesting to see how they would develop as players, in other facets of their game. And we got to witness the two of them grow up, substantially this season. It's Lauren Park Lane. She's the strides she's made, both as a scorer and as a playmaker. Like, she increased her points per game. She almost tripled it. It seemed like she went from scoring, a decent amount, and only being looked at as a facilitator to being one of the most dynamic players in the Big East and one of the best point guards in the country, in my opinion. She has just shown that she is so dangerous at her size to be able to facilitate the offense and to score in bunches and to finish on the interior and to just be a threat from anywhere on the floor. She's hit big shot after big shot. So her development over the season has been a treat to watch. And the same with Maya Jackson. She's not just a three-point shooter anymore. She can now hold her own defensively. She made, I think, considerable strides on that end. So being a 40% three-point shooter while being, solid guarding your position is a luxury for the Pirates to have at this point. And then Desiree Elmore being the great player that she is. Personally, I feel like she should have won Defensive Player of the Year, but, UConn and Marquette's co-winners, Olivia Nelson-Adota and Selena Lott, they did anchor better defenses. So I'm not too mad at that, but Des was top 5 in steals and blocks, or whatever it was. I feel as if she had a great case. Not the point. That's neither here nor there, but she made tremendous strides. And then, of course, Andra Espinoza Hunter, transferring from Mississippi State, wasn't expected to play, was then granted a blanket waiver, and then she joined the team in the middle of the season and almost instantly just sparked that new fast offense the Pirates love to run. She fit in the offense like a glove. She just unlocked their game, and she took it to a whole nother level. They were reeling after the loss to UConn, and then she came in and just rejuvenated the whole team and sparked that 6-game winning streak that had the Pirates near the top of the Big East standings for the first time in a while. And, she went on to be named all Big East first team. So I think with the expectations that came with the Pirates into the season, judging from their recent departures as they're starting the selection show now, I just unmuted it to my right. I feel as if Andra Espinoza Hunter, I did it again. You take the remote. I'm moving 100 miles a minute right now. I feel as if the Pirates should be included in the field of 64. They have the wins. They won 12 games in a difficult conference. They finished above DePaul for the first time in God knows when. They finished third, like I said, in a tough conference. They beat the team that ranked above them, Marquette, in their head-to-head matchup. They led against UConn at halftime in the second meeting, and they've competed against the Huskies in the 3 games they've played the last 2 seasons. So I feel as if when you look at all of that, plus the team's individual accomplishments, I feel as if they deserve to be in there. And I'm looking at all the bracketologists, and they're putting the Pirates in that next 4 out category and last 4 in, or wherever it may be. I'm currently looking at it, and they don't have us in the field, or they don't have the Pirates in the field. And I feel as if it's kind of disrespectful. So as they're starting the show, recent news today came out that Gino Auriemma tested positive for COVID-19. So I just wanted to get you guys, your opinions on, do you think this will affect him moving forward? And also, how have you two seen COVID-19 affect these two, or the women's season up until this point?
So honestly, we saw this in the beginning of the Seton Hall season, where they were supposed to start 2 weeks earlier than they did. They were supposed to start late November around Thanksgiving, but they ended up starting already almost middle of December because of COVID issues. And COVID issues are going to happen no matter what. They don't go away. Somebody's going to be in contact, and then there's going to have to be contact tracing. So with Coach Auriemma, it's definitely, you don't want to see that. You want to see, I guess, the UConn team in full strength. But I mean, UConn is such a well-oiled machine. They have an amazing coaching staff with him at the helm. I'm not really too worried about the team as a whole, being that he is a great basketball mind. He's an amazing coach, but I feel like the team that they have amounted this year is very autonomous, very self-sufficient. And I feel like they know what they're doing. And plus, I mean, Coach Gino is not going to have any old scrubs on his coaching staff with him. So the coaching staff is also going to be there to man the ship for him. And for him, I would just really hope that he's okay. Obviously, we wish him the best. And he's been slated to come back after a 10-day quarantine. So that's March 24th. He's going to be able to come back. So, I mean, the team should hold its own. I do feel confident in that UConn team. I'm sure he does as well. I don't see this almost like in college football when you saw Coach Saban have COVID issues. There wasn't really much worry about that Alabama team. We saw Alabama win the championship and take it all the way. So similar to that, I see the same thing here.
Yeah, I'd have to somewhat agree with Ronnie. I was reading up on this story because I was interested to see everything that was happening within the program. Apparently, Gino Auriemma actually got both of his COVID-19 vaccines, getting his second dose about almost a week ago, and news came today that he tested positive for the coronavirus, which is very strange to me, but definitely not what you want coming at a pretty bad time, I would have to say. I think he's going to miss at least one game, regardless of when UConn has their first matchup in the tournament. But that being said, I feel like this UConn team is just way too good. I don't know if they would really fall to a team in their first matchup as the projected 1 seed. Their associate head coach, Chris Daly, I'm pretty sure she's undefeated when serving as a head coach for the Huskies during her tenure there. So I don't know. I don't think this team is necessarily going to miss a beat without Gino Auriemma, but at the same time, it's obviously going to have some kind of impact, I would imagine, on the team. But again, UConn has been so steady this season that I would imagine they're going to be able to power through this and continue dominating the country as they have throughout this entire season.
And as you guys were mentioning your points on my question, they actually started revealing the Mercado region, and it turns out that NC State was awarded the #1 overall seed. Now, NC State is the only team this season to knock off two #1 teams, South Carolina and unfortunately Louisville. In fact, they defeated the Cardinals twice, knocking them off in the ACC championship on a game-winning shot from Raina Perez. That one really stung. It's like she stabbed me in the heart. Not the point. Just I wanted to gauge you guys' thoughts. Did you see NC State receiving the #1 overall seed over the Huskies or Stanford? Is that a surprise to you, or who have you guys identified on that NC State Wolfpack squad that you see as a threat to potentially take the Wolfpack all the way?
Well, I guess I could start. This is a little bit surprising. I think NC State, I'm pretty sure they've played a fewer games than a lot of some of the top teams in the country. There's obviously Stanford, UConn, South Carolina, Texas A&M, but they did win their conference tournament, so that obviously adds to their resume. Obviously, they did go 20-2, so it's not like this is a team that is not deserving, dominating the ACC, as I mentioned, and like you said, Heaven, being the one team this year to knock off two #1 seeds or two top teams in the country. So certainly, it is a little surprising, and I feel like that speaks to how this is going to go. The bracket revealing that I feel like the committee is not necessarily going to factor in postponements, cancellations, thing like that, as much as I expected, which is, it's going to have its positives and negatives. So, but a deserving team, I would say. NC State certainly. I mean, I think they would have been a 1 seed regardless, but it is kind of surprising. They are the top seed.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. It looks like the committee's not gonna follow the hype. So UConn was definitely the most, I guess, touted team because of their reputation, right? And that's the team I believed. I thought they were gonna go with a safe pick, but this NC State's no slouch at all. The records speak for itself, and when you have players, Alyssa Cunning, Jakia Brown Turner. We have Cunning. She's averaging 16 points, almost 17 points, and 8 rebounds. So she's almost averaging a double-double. This team is no joke. And Jorie, you said it. They ran through their conference, and they beat the top teams. So they're looking at resume here, and they definitely have it. At NCAA.com, they were touted as the 3rd rank. So they were a top 3 team overall, and they were going to get a top seed either way. But the 2 teams that were ahead of them were Stanford and UConn. That, all 3 of those teams could have been the top overall and wouldn't have been a problem. But I am still slightly surprised that they went with the top. They got the top overall.
Now, also in the Mercado region, it was revealed that Texas A&M was the 2 seed in that region actually, and that surprised me quite a bit. I thought they had a decent shot at a 1 seed. You can make the argument that there's about 8 teams or so that had an argument for a 1 seed, so there was bound to be some sort of dissension. But I figured Texas A&M would have a solid shot. They won the SEC regular season championship, but then lost in their league's tournament semifinals. So I just wanted to gauge you guys' thoughts on the Mercado region as they're revealing, some other matchups. Was that a surprise to you? Personally, I feel as if them winning the SEC regular season championship, considering the fact that the SEC is the top-rated conference in the net, I thought they had a rock-solid shot for a 1 seed. But does Texas A&M being a 2 seed surprise you in any way?
I don't know if it necessarily surprises me. Like you said, they won the SEC regular season title, but obviously fell apart to I believe it was Georgia in their tournament. So that obviously is not. I think that played a big factor here, and I think basically what this means is that we're going to see UConn, Stanford, and most likely South Carolina as the other top seeds in the bracket, because I think Texas A&M was really like on the fence as a 1 or 2 seed, but I think now I think we can project who the other top seeds are going to be based on this ranking.
No, yeah, I agree. They had an argument to be a top seed, but now I feel like the committee is really showing their colors here and showing their cards and who they want to be the top 4 top seeds. But I mean, Texas A&M, man, they had a great season, winning that title. Just fell short, but it's still a great team, and they're going to be a tough matchup for any team that plays them. They're 2 seed for a reason, but that Mercado region is already looking like a tough one.
And as we were discussing the Mercado region, they revealed some of the seeding in the Hemisphere region. So the number 1 seed in that area is the South Carolina Gamecocks, and the number 2 seed are the Maryland Terrapins. Now, South Carolina, they're, of course, extremely talented. They are one of the better teams in the nation, I should say. They're one of the better teams in the nation. South Carolina and Maryland both feature, hectic offenses. South Carolina led by Destiny Henderson and Zaya Cook, but also a paint beast in Aaliyah Boston. They're number 1 in blocks, number 2 in rebounds, just a really well-rounded team. And Maryland, I mean, they're just hectic. They have the number 1 scoring offense in the country with 6 players averaging double figures. They're led by Ashley Owusu, leading the squad with over 18 points per game, and they're currently on a 13-game win streak. So just wanted to gauge you guys' thoughts on the Hemisphere region. We just discussed the Mercado region and how they've got South Carolina and Texas A&M. We're seeing now what the committee looks at when it comes to ranking these teams, and it looks like here they're definitely acknowledging that the SEC is better than the Big Ten in terms of net, as they gave the SEC team the number 1 seed over the Maryland, or over the Big Ten team, despite both South Carolina and Maryland winning their conference tournaments. So wanted to gauge you guys' thoughts on the Hemisphere region as it's starting to shape out. What are you guys' thoughts on those 2 squads?
Well, I think definitely South Carolina is deserving. You mentioned those players, Zia Cook, Aaliyah Boston. I feel like that's a team that, I mean, I'm probably saying something pretty obvious, but in the future, this team is going to be even better because those 2 players that you named, Heaven, they're both sophomores this year, and they're already some of the best players in the country. And then Destiny Henderson, she's a junior, so that's a team that is certainly. I mean, I did watch their game against UConn, and that did not go as they wanted it to, but it was still a fun matchup, and that could potentially be the championship game again because they definitely have the talent to get there. So I think they are certainly deserving of that 1 seed for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. After the previous announcement, now we kind of really deduced South Carolina was going to be there. But man, South Carolina, that game. I mean, yeah, I also saw that game between UConn and South Carolina. They fell to that one, but listen, they were ranked number 2 for a reason. They're a great team, and all those players mentioned are great players and young too. This is such a young team that could be potential to be great for the next couple of years, right? But being now this young team is gonna get some experience as a 1 seed in the big dance. That's definitely gonna go a long way for that team. So I mean, this already great South Carolina Gamecock team could potentially be so much better now with this bubble experience in San Antonio. So, but I mean, now having you mentioned the SEC being ranked a little bit higher than the Big Ten, I feel like it's an interesting point by the committee, and I wonder if we're going to see more of that trend going on in the selections.
Yeah, and they're showcasing now on the screen Aaliyah Boston. She had 14 points per game, 12 rebounds per game, 15 double doubles. She's just been a monster for South Carolina. And Jory, that game between South Carolina and UConn was definitely one of the crazier games I've ever watched. And it was that game that kind of cemented the legendary status of Paige Beckers, if you will, in her first year on campus, which is just ridiculous. That last shot she hit in overtime, forever known as the bounce, now has been immortalized. And she's definitely going to be one to watch, as I'm imagining once they come back from commercial, they'll be revealing UConn as one of the final remaining number 1 seeds. So I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on the Huskies. This was their first season back in the Big East. We've gotten the chance to witness them now for a full season, the juggernaut that they are. We knew before how good they were, and, they were running through the American Athletic Conference, and they've now won 160 conference games in a row. So I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on the Huskies. How did you think the Pirates performed against them this year? Is there a chance the Pirates can beat them next year? Just what were your thoughts on the Huskies this season and their players that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, I can start, I guess. I mean, you mentioned Paige Becker. Was absolutely phenomenal. So much fun to watch. Even if you are a Seton Hall Pirates fan, you have to respect her game and what she does for that team. But I mean, this is not I feel like we love to give her praise, but this team is just stacked all throughout their entire roster. I mean, you were just mentioning, Heaven, Aaliyah Boston on South Carolina. Olivia Nelson-Ododa on UConn is a paint beast herself. I mean, she's an absolute force down low for the Huskies. You have Christine Williams as well. I mean, this team is just absolutely crazy. And Aaliyah Edwards, the purple and gold braids, shout out Kobe Bryant, So it's just this whole team is absolutely stacked. And like you said, I wouldn't be surprised coming out of that break that they're going to be a number 1 seed. But in terms of how the Pirates faced them this year, I thought they played them almost as good as anyone, really, throughout the entire season. Obviously, the talent discrepancy is there. There's just sometimes you just have better players, and there's not much you can do about it. But Seton Hall always came ready to play against them. Lauren Park Lane in the home game against the Huskies had a phenomenal performance. She really stepped up. They're not afraid of that team, I have to say. And if Seton Hall can retain all of their players from this season heading into next year and just continue to grow as a team, I would not be surprised if Seton Hall, given that they have 2 matchups with UConn every year now, is going to knock them off one of these years. So it's going to be interesting moving forward.
I do think that they're going to be this Husky team is bound to drop a game against Seton Hall one of these times, and I smell it coming. It's on the horizon because this Pirates team, like you said, Jory, is not scared at all. And I mean, it's really tough when I remember when it was announced that they were going to be back in the Big East, and you're like, oh boy, it's like you get that behemoth. Now you got to face them twice a year. That's it could be jarring if you're part of the Big East, and I'm sure, I mean, the rest of the Big East felt it too. But this UConn team is just, like I said, it's a well-oiled machine. And just to throw some stats out there, Paige Beckers, almost 20 points, 19.7 points per game, and 4 rebounds on great percentage shooting. She was just absolutely efficient from everywhere, 47% from 3, 83% from the free throw line, 53% from the field. It's that she was basically automatic all year. And she's become almost like a freshman phenom of obviously she's been making headlines and she's been the catalyst of that team, but then it's the rest of the team as well that kind of fly under the radar. Kristen Williams, Olivia Nelson-Ododa, Leah Edwards, those are the top 4 averaging in double figures. And then you also have Avina Westbrook with 9. So the team is stacked, well-oiled machine, but the Pirates, they played them as best as they could. They led at halftime when they were on the road. They kept it close at half the first time until, I mean, you got to play a full 4 quarters against that team, and the Pirates didn't. They would play a nice 3.5, a nice 3, a nice half, but you have to finish out that game completely from start to finish. And it's really hard to against that good of a team. But I do think the Pirates are going to improve. If hopefully they improve, the thing is, so will UConn. They're going to improve, so it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely agree with that sentiment about UConn joining the Big East and every team collectively going like, oh man, because after running through the American Athletic Conference for several seasons, it was like nothing changed. You know, this season they just dominated the conference left and right. But one bright spot was the play of the Pirates against them. I can honestly say I feel like the Pirates played them better than any team in the Big East. And that's just from, you know, again, they led at halftime against the Huskies. Only them and the Tennessee Volunteers can say that. And also just looking at the scores of some of their games against the other Big East teams, or supposed powerhouses, I should say. I mean, they beat DePaul by, what was that, 23? I think final score was like 100 to 67. And then they lost by 10 to they won by 10 against Marquette in the final game of the regular season. And then a week later, they blew the doors off them by like 25. I think final score of the Big East championship was like 73 to 39 or 84 to 39, whatever it was. The point is, they dominated the so-called powerhouses, and the Pirates were at least putting up 2-3 quarters of a good fight. So it feels like just a matter of time, specifically next season, if the Pirates return everyone, you know, that they'll be able to put together a full game. And the Pirates have that fast-paced offense that UConn can sometimes struggle with, and they have the defensive versatility to give the Huskies some issues. And judging from what Coach Bozzella said, you know, when the Pirates defeated St. John's in that last regular season game, he said Desiree Elmore would be back. So if that's the case, you're getting back your best senior. And we know Andra is sticking around because she has eligibility next year, and the goal is for her to play next season anyway. So you're getting back your best two, or not your best two, but two of your best players next season, in addition to, like you said, Jorie, the continued development of Lauren Park Lane, Maya Jackson, you know, and then other players taking on bigger roles, Victoria Keenan, Alexia Alesh, so on and so forth. So
Amari Wright also played great this season. She got a lot of minutes, and she's improving rapidly.
Yes, without question. She was definitely the standout freshman to come up and take that baton, you know, to the point where she was closing games and getting actual, you know, valuable minutes, as opposed to the other freshmen that would come in and I don't want to say garbage time, cleanup duty, if you will. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, and hopefully the Pirates can knock off the Huskies next season in one of their 2 chances. So they're now revealing the seeds in the Alamo region, and the number one seed in the Alamo region is the Stanford Cardinal. So they were the number 1 team in the country for about a month, until back-to-back upsets against Colorado and UCLA, but they climbed their way back to the top and won the Pac-12 championship. This is a team with a ton of depth. They just showed on the screen Cameron Brink, Haley Jones, Fran Belibi, and Will, our engineer, said Cameron Brink 6'4", Haley Jones 6'1". How do you have a 6'1" guard? She'd be probably the tallest player on our team. And then Fran Belibi, I'm sure you guys know her. She's gone viral for Louisville announcement. Fran Belibi has gone viral several times for her dunking ability. So the Cardinal is definitely a very dangerous team. So I wanted to gauge you guys' thoughts on Stanford being in the Alamo region. Is this the Alamo region that they're still revealing? And as I just found out, Louisville is also in the Alamo region, which hurts my soul. So what are your guys' thoughts on Stanford and Louisville being the top 2 seeds in the Alamo region.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, Heaven. They were top seed for some of the season until, like you said, those upsets against Colorado and UCLA. But they got UCLA back in the Pac-12 championship. They pretty much dominated that team in the Pac-12 championship game, winning 75-55. And like you said, I think Will makes a great point about this team. They just have really good size, and they also have really good just depth, period. I mean, they have 6 players this season who are averaging over 7 points a game. So, and they have a combination of veteran leadership. You know, Keanu Williams is a senior, but they also have some freshmen. Cameron Brink, who we mentioned, they're 6'4" interior presence. She's just a freshman. So it's going to be an interesting mixture to see what happens in the tournament. And I wouldn't be surprised if they make it pretty far, because this team definitely has what it takes. I wouldn't be surprised if there is this could be. I think there's a point to be made, though, that this could be a more competitive NCAA tournament than years past, because there isn't really home court advantages. You know, normally you would have teams playing in the Eastern region, but everyone is in San Antonio this year. So, I mean, no one's really going to have any kind of advantage. And obviously, there's going to be probably some mishaps with COVID or whatever else. This could be a way up in the air, but if it were a normal year, Stanford, they're definitely deserving of a top seed, and they're definitely going to make a big run. I would assume in this year's tournament.
And Jory, I love how you mentioned the fact that there's no really home court, but the thing is, Stanford also thrives in that as well. You look at their neutral record; they're 6-1. So, you know, neither away nor home. You know, these neutral grounds, they've performed and they have a great record, and they finish off the season absolutely on fire. 14-game win streak. I mean, are you kidding me? They're built for success, literally and figuratively, because when you have all those trees over there, literally trees, you know, trees for Stanford, all that, that's pretty poetic. But you have all these 6-footers when, I mean, a lot of these teams don't really have the height, and height is going to go a long way. We saw it with the UConn team. They have their big bodies also thrived. Stanford, they take advantage of their height. So, and I mean, who doesn't love seeing dunks in general? Just dunks, and they have a player that can dunk like that. So, I mean, that's already March worthy content right there. So, but the Stanford team, I had them as a number 1 seed. So, I'm glad to see them have it there. And Louisville, I mean, I'm glad to see. I mean, Heaven, your team's there. Your team's number 2, but they're gonna have a tough road ahead of them.
Yeah, tough road indeed. You know, Stanford, they're a powerhouse every year, led by head coach Tara Vanderveer. I think she has the most wins all time, men or women's coaches. So she's a beast, to say the least. And Louisville, we won the ACC regular season championship, so that's a banner going up in the KFC Yum Center. But the tournament championship, the referees, they rigged it. It was just like really nasty down the stretch. I feel as if when the ACC Player of the Year, Dana Evans, drives to the basket 15 times and takes 1 free throw, I don't know. I'm not saying it was rigged, but I'm not saying that. I just feel as if we were cheated several times down the stretch. But congrats to the Wolfpack. Good for them. And I'll see Louisville in the Final Four, one way or the other. But as you guys were discussing your points on Stanford and Louisville, they were revealing the Riverwalk region, which gives us potentially a big matchup in the second round. So, number 1 seed in the Riverwalk region, the UConn, I believe they were playing High Point was the matchup highlighted for that game. But in the game right below them, or no, am I reading this wrong? Hold on. Bro, hold on. Wait, I'm sorry, y'all. But okay, UConn, number 1 overall seed in the Riverwalk region. Yes. In that same region, they placed the Iowa Hawkeyes, led by star freshman Caitlin Clark. So there is a chance we could see Paige Beckers versus Caitlin Clark in the tournament if those two teams win out. Also notable teams in that region include the Kentucky Wildcats, the Michigan Wolverines, led by Naz Hillman, who they showed. Baylor is in that region as well. Wow. And Tennessee. Okay. So, like yesterday, how we highlighted the Midwest region, the Riverwalk region will be the one to watch because they got goons from top to bottom. So I just wanted to get you guys' takes on, I mean, we already discussed UConn a little bit, but what have you guys seen from Caitlin Clark this season? The phenomenal player that she is. Kentucky being the 4 seed in this region, does that mean well for DePaul possibly getting a seed in the tournament? Wait, no, they just revealed the 15 and the 2.
Yeah.
So is that everything?
Mm-hmm.
So DePaul is not in the tournament. Wow. I'm talking to Will off screen. This is quite the development. So with Kentucky being the 4 seed, I'm guessing they didn't value DePaul's win over Kentucky that much since they crumbled down the stretch. But back to my overall question. What have y'all seen from Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark? In y'all opinion, who is the better player?
Well, Heaven, that's tough. That's very tough. But if I had to, I think I would have to go Paige Beckers. Really, I mean, I think this is something you've mentioned plenty of times throughout this season. She had every kind of expectation put on her shoulders going to UConn, being the top recruit, and she not only did she live up to those expectations, but she exceeded them. Taking UConn obviously to another Big East championship, winning Big East Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year. I mean, she did everything for this team this year. And that's not to say Caitlin Clark isn't a phenomenal player herself. I think it's pretty cool that she's doing it for her home state, Iowa. I'm pretty sure that's where she went to high school. So I think that is a pretty cool matchup. And potentially, I think if we do get that matchup, that's a game everyone is going to have to tune into. But I think another thing that you mentioned, DePaul not being in the tournament, does that mean? I'm pretty sure that means there's only 2 Big East schools in the tournament this year, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if I necessarily thought DePaul was going to make it, but I think if that's the case, and Seton Hall at the same time, you probably can't say that they would have made it either. So I guess it kind of makes sense, but it is sad to see that this is such a the conference with arguably the best team in the country only sends 2 teams there, and it's just kind of weird to see that, but who knows?
There's so much going on right now. We have so much to unpack. I mean, we got to talk Pirates. We got to talk about the rest of the seeding. But in terms of the star freshman, I'm gonna stick to what I'm more familiar with, and that's getting torched by Paige Beckers on a 2-game basis in a year. So, Paige, she has some. I feel like when I see her, I see Kobe Bryant for some reason. She has kind of that game to her where she's not afraid to shoot the mid range, which I appreciate that because it's a lost art. She's a great shooter from 3, and she just knows. She's just savvy on the floor. I don't know, but just seeing her, just witnessing it close and against the school I go to, you get to appreciate it a little more, and just her graciousness and the fact that she's a freshman doing this. But she also had a lot of expectations, and with those expectations, it's really easy to crumble. It's really easy to just really be overwhelmed and not live up, and especially going to UConn of all places, the best of the best. She had it all, and she did it. She outperformed Big East Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year. That's exactly what you want to see from her. So she started off her collegiate career literally perfectly, winning the Big East, 1 seed, one of the best teams in the country. She's the rocket of that team. I mean, shouldering that load is no easy feat. But Caitlin Clark, there's like, she's from West Des Moines and Iowa, so that's really cool. Hometown kid, and she's big. She knows how to play. She had a 39-point performance against Nebraska, so she can light it up. And if those two, if there's a collision course and those two end up meeting, that should be primetime television right there. Where whatever channel is going to be on, it should be primetime.
Yeah, without question. I mean, I agree with both of your points, specifically the one you said, Jorie, about her having all the expectations on her and exceeding them. You know, she won Gatorade National Player of the Year, and she had all of these people hounding her, you know, and I feel like a lot of people wanted her to fail, you know, just being one of those recent social media stars where, you know, they have a big following and a huge platform, and they're also really good at basketball. People want them to not live up to their full potential, and we see that a little bit with LaMelo Ball in the NBA. You know, how people, you know, hated his father and hated how Melo was being a kid on the court, you know, just having fun out there and winning a lot. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way for some reason. So again, Paige having all of these expectations on her, going to the most prestigious school for women's basketball in general, in UConn, going there and not only winning, but winning Player of the Year and Freshman of the Year, Jorie, like you said. And I think only one other player has done that in conference history, and it was Maya Moore. And we know what she's gone on to do at the professional level. I mean, she's got so many rings, she could fill both fingers. So it's like, to go there, and within the first couple of games, it was like, are we watching the best freshman season in UConn history? Like, seeing articles like that, it was so strange, because it was like no way. You know, they've had Sue Bird and Brianna Stewart and Maya Moore, like all these players, but in reality, like you had to pay attention, because it was true. It was true. She led the team in scoring in her first year, and you know, coming into the season, nobody knew what her role would be. You know, nobody knew how to project how she would perform. And it wasn't like she was out there just chucking. She was historically efficient. So personally, like you said, Rony, I have Paige over Caitlin just because of how dominant she was, both in conference and at the national level, and doing what she did despite being the focal point and the center of attention on the squad as the season progressed. So I like her over Caitlin, but they're both just phenomenal players. Caitlin has fit into that Hawkeyes team seamlessly. They're one of the most dynamic offenses in the nation. Them in Maryland, you know, although I think they lost both of their games against the Terrapins, it was just back and forth scoring, just lighting up the scoreboard, absolutely ridiculous stuff on both sides. And Caitlin has had, you know, tremendous performances left and right. So they're both great players. And I hope we get that matchup, you know, someone or somewhere down the line. So they've revealed all the teams. And Jorie, like you mentioned, there's only 2 teams from the Big East in there, after it was assumed the Big East would send 3 squads, you know, namely UConn, Marquette, DePaul, or UConn, Marquette, Seton Hall. Now the Pirates aren't in there. Wanted to get you guys' reaction. Did you expect the Pirates to be, you know, a 14 seed? What are your thoughts on Marquette being named as a 10 seed? Do you think that's too low or too high? And now to pivot, do you see the Pirates accepting an NIT bid?
I guess I can start. I think I don't know if I necessarily expected Seton Hall to really get into the tournament. If we're being 100% honest, I think losing in the first round of the Big East tournament as a 3 seed really damaged their resume a lot. I think had they taken care of Creighton in the tournament, I think it would have been a different story. Maybe I think just the optics of it would have helped, but it's it's very tough. I don't think the Big East continues to get disrespected by tournament committees and things like that. But I guess, and then to answer your question about Marquette, I think Marquette is a definitely a solid team, a 10 seed. I think it's probably about right. I mean, we obviously saw Seton Hall took down Marquette at home this year in their one matchup because I think the other one was canceled. So I think, I mean that side of the bracket is going to be tough, and being a 10 seed certainly doesn't help. They will most likely have to play Baylor, and if they can take down Virginia Tech, they'll have to play Baylor most likely in the second round. So that's obviously not what they wanted, but you know.
Yeah, I kind of held out hope that the Pirates were gonna make it. I was hopeful, mainly because UConn was such a really strong team in that conference, and I feel like that kind of boosts the rest of the teams that are in that conference having to play such a great team like UConn. It's very UConn centric, but and being that the Pirates really handled their business against Marquette in their one matchup because the second one was postponed. That says a lot. And the Pirates were hot at that time, and they ended the season off absolutely on fire. But the thing is, like I said in the beginning of the show, that first round exit to Creighton is kind of might have been the nail in the coffin. That might have been just the absolute devastator for that team. They should have won. Well, looking back on it, obviously they should have won, but they couldn't have really cemented their case for a really low seed if they went more deeper into that tournament. But it hurts to not see either Pirate team make it into the NCAA, and especially with the women's team being as exciting as they were this year. Now an NIT bid, I could see them accept it just for the fact of getting more playing time because of how hot they were, and I feel like this team has a lot to prove, but it kind of leaves people with a sour taste in their mouth.
Okay, and with that, I'd like to pivot now to discussing the 2 seed in the Riverwalk region. We discussed UConn versus Iowa potentially getting that matchup in what I think would be the Sweet 16. So holding out hope for that one. But down there in the Riverwalk region, like I mentioned, Tennessee is in there and Baylor as well. So I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on the Baylor Lady Bears, one of the well-known teams, known for their defense, year in and year out, despite losing, players to the draft every year. They've still managed to have a really solid team year in and year out, led by leading scorer Nalissa Smith, who is just a force on the glass and in the interior. So wanted to get you guys' opinions on the Baylor team. And they had a game against UConn canceled due to COVID-19 protocols. Who would you guys have picked to win that one if it were played? And just what are your thoughts on the Bears this season?
Yeah, I mean, the Baylor being a 2 seed could actually be huge for this side of the bracket. I mean, obviously UConn is number 1 in that side of the bracket, but Baylor, I mean, they won the last tournament, the last NCAA tournament that they had. Obviously, last year's was postponed or canceled. 2019, they're the champions, and they have a lot of the same players from that championship team still on their roster. So I would have to imagine having that championship experience and then essentially 2 or maybe 1.5 seasons of experience added on to that, that could play a huge factor in upsetting potentially UConn in in that tournament, in that side of the brackets, championship game, I guess you could call it. But like you said, Heaven, they had a game postponed earlier in the season. I feel like that would have been a lot of fun to watch. But had that game been played, I think whoever lost that game probably would have took this one in the tournament, because they would have came with a different vengeance in the tournament. So, but shout out Jackson State, Baylor's first round matchup, HBCU, one of the biggest HBCUs in the country. They had a game against. One of their games was broadcasted on NBA TV earlier this season during Black History Month. So, shout out Jackson State. Maybe they can pull off the upset against Baylor in the first round.
And honestly, shout out all these lower seeded teams for squeezing it in, and they're gonna be facing these top seeded teams. So they're gonna have a lot of work cut out for them. But Baylor, reigning and defending national champions from 2019, and Jorie took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, that experience, not many people are able to really live by and live through, going on a deep tournament run and actually winning and feeling that winning mentality. So being that a lot of those players are back, and that was such a young team back then, a lot of those players are back, and obviously eligibility, helps with that as well. But still, having that experience can really elevate this team and really propel this team going forward. And man, I'm sure something must, the universe must have known not to do a UConn Baylor matchup, because that would have just been too powerful in that moment. And the universe is probably saving it for this tournament. Maybe we could potentially see a Baylor UConn high stakes game to try to get into the championship. I mean, that would be absolutely insane. But in the regular season, if there was any team that was really going to give UConn a run for its money, it could have been Baylor. If we're being honest, just the team that they have. So, and having that experience, I mean, all that goes into it. But Baylor is that this side of the bracket is looking very scary.
All right, so winding down the selection show, Jorie, you mentioned Jackson State getting the nod for winning the SWAC. And I mean, they've been one of the best mid-major teams to watch this season. I believe they're, one of the higher ranking mid-major teams in terms of just their their rating on the season and their hoop stats rating. They're really solid, and their team can shoot well from behind the arc. It's unlikely that they knock off a 2 seed or win any more than one game, but they draw fouls at a top 40 rate, and they're 12th in offensive rebounding rate. So they're just one of those annoying pesky teams that you don't want to run into. So as we're winding down, just wanted to get you guys' thoughts. What's one team in the field of 64 that you're excited to watch and that you think could be a Cinderella or a sleeper, besides one of the bigger teams that we've discussed today? So I'm thinking, Rutgers or Marquette, perhaps. Maybe they find the juice, the mojo to make a deep run. Just who have you guys identified, just looking at the entire tournament field now that we have all 64 teams?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of to pick the team that I kind of wanted to mention, Rutgers. I mean, shout out New Jersey. Even though Seton Hall is not going to be there, we do have a representative, I guess. So I guess someone you could root for, if you will. But, I mean, they played in the Big Ten. That's a tough conference, and they are a 6 seed, I believe. So I think, I mean, just looking at the rest of that side of the bracket, I mean, obviously you have NC State and Texas A&M, but they are a team that could make a run. They played against Iowa's in that conference, obviously Ohio State and Northwestern. So Indiana, Maryland. So I mean, that conference is not a cakewalk, and I think they're accustomed to beating teams that are better than them, to say the least. And I think that Rutgers could make some noise, but now watch them fall on their face against BYU in the first round. Now that I said this, I can see that happening too.
Yeah, this broadcaster curse is really, really, really tough on all of us. It goes a long way. This one kind of like, it's tough, but I just get this feeling. Marquette being a 10 seed, they're such a good team. But the thing is, the thing that's like really irking me is like, if they beat Virginia Tech, which I feel like they can, and Baylor, handles its business against Jackson State, then you have Marquette versus Baylor, and that's definitely the tough part. But I mean, if they are able to get through potentially Virginia Tech and Baylor, and that no Cinderella story would be complete without a huge upset, of course, right? So if it's going to be a huge upset, why not be Baylor? So I really like Marquette. Keep it in the Big East.
Yeah, and that Marquette or that potential Marquette Baylor matchup, I mean, that's between the second best scoring defense in the Big East and the number one scoring defense in the Big 12. So just both teams putting the lid on the rim, and it'll be the first one to 50, and we'll see who wins in that potential matchup. I don't know if I'd want to see that. Both teams just shooting 30%, but it'd probably be fun on paper. As far as the one team that I would highlight that I like in this tournament, I'm going to say Stephen F. Austin. A little bit of a curveball out of left field. They're in the Hemisphere region with South Carolina and with Maryland. So it's not going to be an easy route for them by a long shot, but they got a 12 seed. And I feel as if that's a little bit disrespectful. They were the 1 seed in the Southland Conference, and they ran through that conference left and right. They were 17th in net, which is, really high ranking for a mid-major. And they won every game in conference, or almost every game except their last game in conference, by over 20 points. So they've somehow forced their opponents to have more turnovers than made field goals, which, if you really think about it, is just ridiculous to me. And all 5 starters average about 9 or between 9 to 13 points per game. So they're deep, they're talented, and they win by a lot. And they just ran through their conference. And I think they've got that matchup against Georgia Tech, which is a tough one. Georgia Tech coming from the ACC, of course, with schools like NC State and Louisville. They're definitely battle tested. But I think Stephen F. Austin is being slept on just a little bit. The committee gave them a 12 seed, and we've seen 12 or 5 seed upsets happen all the time in the men's conference. I think this could be a prime spot here for one on the women's side. So with that will be the end of our selection show special. Thank you, Jorie and Rony, for being spectacular analysts. Thank you, Will, for manning the controls off camera. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for taking part, in this with me. I would have printed out brackets and did that whole thing with y'all, but y'all are there and we are here. So got to do what you got to do. We'll be watching Marquette Rutgers and Stephen F. Austin very closely, along with any other potential matchups like, that UConn versus Iowa game in the Sweet 16. I'm praying to everything that I love that game happens, because there's nothing I want more than to see the 2 best freshmen in the country face off. So that'll do it from us. Like I said, for my analyst and my engineer, Jorie Mickens, Rony Jerez, and Warner Lewis, respectively, I'm your host, Heaven Hill, signing off. So long. Take care.